Hello there, cyber friends and possible curiosity seekers, or perhaps both. Um, yeah, my anxiety is really not good. Um, I had my heart pop out of rhythm and then back into rhythm 2 days in a row. Um, my brother's got some kind of depression thing going on. I spoke to him yesterday, and he's just doing a whole lot of sleeping, so I'm kind of on my own. Not a good thing to be if you just had AFib and it's pumped full of 8 or 10 different kind of drugs. And I was in the hospital for 3.5 days, like a week ago. And so I got the floor cleared off. My goal today is to sweep the actual floor, change the sweeper bag if necessary, sweep the actual floor. I had one other goal that I can't think of. I can't even think of my goals. That's not good. But no, I woke up and uh, watched the heartbreaking Cleveland Browns loss. They had 3 turnovers. They had the game handed to them on a silver platter. They played great on defense against an offense that puts up 30 points on the reg. And they uh, even dropped an interception, so should have had 4 turnovers. I mean, they just couldn't get the job done. They made errors and mistakes that come from inexperience. It came, the head coach, for instance, should have threw a challenge flag on a receiver getting pushed out of bounds to offset a penalty that was on the Browns. And they would have offset and they wouldn't have lost the down. And then there's another play where they ran the ball 4th and 9. And like, instead of punting and trying to trap the other team deep, it made no sense whatsoever. So there's a lot of coaching and experience there. That's Freddie Kitchen's first year as head coach. But enough about that. Back to my anxiety. That did not help my anxiety because I got NFL Game Pass. So I woke up first thing in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was all excited to watch that game, of course, because the first two Browns games were meaningless because the first game they like almost set the NFL record for penalties in a single game. There's no way in hell they could have won that game and exposed the weakness of their offensive line. And then the second game, they end up the first string quarterback for the Jets gets mono. The second string quarterback gets his leg about broke by Myles Garrett. So they're playing a third string quarterback. And the Jets' best player on defense, C.J. Mosley, who come over from the Ravens, he ain't playing. So it's like they're playing a college team out there. So they weren't particularly impressive in that game at all. But in this Rams game, they played a good game. And those were takeaways, man. They weren't just people fumbling the ball or making mistakes. A couple of them passes were risky passes, but those were takeaways. And so that was brutal to watch that. And, I felt increasing anxiety from watching that game. But I ended up, shouldn't do it. But, anxiety level was too high. I ended up, I was drinking coffee, which I guess I got to lay off coffee now, which is going to suck, and decaf, not the same. Um, uh, so I take, supposed to take 10 milligrams of Valium 3 times a day. I took 20 milligrams of Valium and a blood pressure pill because I'm like not, I feel like not right internally. And my pulse is calling me a liar, which, that could be effective of the medications I'm taking or whatever. Anxiety doesn't always, I guess, gets translated into physiological symptoms, you know, like sweating or hands shaking or, stuff like that. It's just a general feeling of unease and doom and waiting for the hammer to fall, waiting for Godzilla's foot to come down on top of you, you know. Anyways, so yesterday I woke up like and I had a arrhythmia right even before I got my coffee, so I didn't drink any coffee. And I didn't double up on. That's a bad idea, doubling up on doses of your benzos. You don't want to get your body adjusted to that. You know, I cleared my schedule in 3 days. I believe the 26th. I go in to see my primary caregiver, and I guess I'm not gonna insist on a wheelchair. I'm just gonna go ahead and with the walker and see how I do. And yeah, that's you know, hey, I'm an AFib. you know, you know how your mind works on you, especially if you got like an imagination like I got. It's like, yeah, excuse me, I'm here and all for my appointment, but could you just call 911? I'm in AFib, because I walked in here on a walker and rode an elevator and walked a few more steps, because if you're just laying there and you're getting AFib, you know, I can't if you don't have it, I can't really describe it for you. Somebody said, "What's it feel like in there in the hospital?" And I said, "It kind of feels like a frog's inside my chest that drank 17 cups of coffee." It's kind of hard to describe what that irregular beating feels like, but it's literal torture to me. And the threat of that, and the threat of more hospitals, and I don't know if my bruise is still showing up, but even I haven't healed up from my wounds from my last hospital visit. I don't want to go back, even if it's just the ER visit. I don't want to go back in to no ER. You know, then they're going to want to keep me because they look, these are stacked too close together. We need, I'm going to be like, fuck you. You can't keep me this time because I'm on blood thinners. I'm going home because they actually kill part of your heart to save it when they do this thing called ablation, where they run a catheter through your veins up into your heart, and they shock a cluster of nerves they believe that are being hyperactive that are causing the arrhythmia. It's a process called ablation, and it's the filthiest word in the English language to me. And there's other measures they can take too, but I don't want no severe measures. I just want, to, you know, like before I moved to Maslin, like I said, I had an episode when I was 36, and then I had an episode when I was 46 once I moved to Maslin, and I moved into this shithole, and Gerald took the building over. And then I've averaged about an episode a year. I mean, I don't even know if it's 5 or if it's 6. I'm going to ask my doctor that. Can you tell me exactly how many times I've been cardioverted? But after a while, they're like, look, dude, this isn't working for you. They're going to insist on putting me on medication, which I got the medication right there, but unless it would take dire circumstances for me to take that medication again, because it just made me feel sick. Now, if I don't know. If I did take, it could be that I felt so sick because it didn't like jive with other medications. Because I had a whole potpourri of medications inside me when I was in the hospital. But all I know is all I did was sleep or feel sicker than hell, and want to be asleep. And then when I'm asleep, I'm having like fucking bad dreams and shit. It's like that. That's what happened to me yesterday, and that's when like you're not in that great shape. Is like when your dreams can risk your health. Because I had a dream that I'm in a doctor's office and I'm stealing cards. The cards are there that are like sports cards, since they've been weighing heavily on my mind since I've got like thousands of dollars around here, and they're like Browns cards. So, I'm invested in that, and it'll work out, because I'll break even at least. But anyways, in this dream, I'm stealing these cards, and because I was taught not to steal, and I grew up in a environment where penalties for misbehavior could be quite harsh, and so it's got my heart kicking and shit. And I woke up with my heart kicking real fast, and then I got up and moved around a little bit, laid back down, and then like I had that uh, arrhythmia. This was yesterday, and no coffee for me. So even a dream can threaten my, you know, can actually threaten my life. I can get killed by my dreams. Freddy Krueger, where the fuck are you? You know, damn. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I thought maybe talking would help mellow me out a little bit as far as anxiety. I got to eat something, and then I have to like, I guess, I guess like it's almost 10 o'clock here. I guess I can get away with my loud ass airplane sweeper sweeping the floor. It's not like they hear it every other month. They have to put up with that sound. So what the difference does it make? Um, but that'll be my like my little cardio test instead of like walking around with a walker or a cane. And yeah, I got some. You know, I would just love to go through here and clean. I'm not like a neat freak, but I'm not a slovenly person either. Um, can't, you know, number one thing has to be keep my heart in rhythm, get it used to beating in a normal rhythm. But then I got shit I gotta do. You know, I don't necessarily have to sweep the floor. You know, I can even do it in two sections if I need to sweep the carpet. You know, but you got to get moving around. You just can't be laying in bed. It hikes up your stress. You need to get moving around. You need to move around some. Even like at the same time you're guarding your heart. And I'm always taking my pulse, and my pulse. I don't know if I said this before I got on here. Was between 70 and 75 because you know it's kind of hard. I don't know. I always like don't trust my count, so my count was like 70. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty low, but I took a blood pressure pill and 2 Valium, so that's probably why. The anxiety is all up here, and it's all justified. But anyway, it's my younger sister's birthday. She was the one that took me in for my first cardioversion when I was 36. She actually went to the appointment with me. There's a couple of funny stories associated with that, but I don't really feel like up to telling them. Um, I can't help myself though. I have to try. But they have curtains in this area. They don't have walls. So the guy next to me, he's getting circumcised for his Jewish girlfriend to become Jewish or something. Anyway, he's getting circumcised, you know, and that was an interesting conversation to overhear because this guy is waiting to get skin cut off of his dick, and he's not too happy about it. And he, you know, I'm like choking back laughter and stuff because it's just a curtain between me and my sister and them. But he's like, man, all I hope is like when I go to pee, it ain't like a sprinkler. You know, I was like at the image of like he, and you know he's going through the what if they screw it up stuff and everything, and like you know he's an adult. You know, it's when you're a kid and they do that stuff to you, which a lot of people don't believe in. Uh, they like they believe it's an unnecessary procedure. Um, it's different when you're an adult and you know you got an adult mind and you're thinking about that stuff. And you're thinking about people cutting on that particular part of you, and you're waiting on that. Like I can imagine that really good because I've had some tough waits. Like recently, I had the transesophageal echocardiogram wait. That was fun, where they were gonna like force it, where they forced that camera down my esophagus, like the face hugger creature in Alien, which people gotta have a better sense of humor about these things. How can you not get that joke? If I mean, I guess I believe you that you didn't see the movie, but come on, people, you know, help me out here. Trying to, this is the way I deal with these things. So I like graveyard humor. I like whistling through that graveyard, man. That's my thing. Uh, anyways, so I was talking about my sister, and today's her birthday, and I haven't spoken to her in at least 6 years for absolutely no reason other than we share a difficult past, growing up in a frankly deranged household. So, whenever we're together, what are you reminded of when you're together with your siblings? Especially if you don't, you're not on the same page as far as like what your childhood was like and stuff. It's like when I reconnected with my older brother, and he's like, at least we had good parents. And I was like, okay, somebody not quite facing reality. He was the oldest child and got treated the worst. You know, it's like, we didn't really have good parents, dude, is what I'm thinking, but not saying. I remember I said something against my Uncle Pat, or it would be his Uncle Pat too, and he got pissed off, and I'm like, the guy was a known sociopath that worked for a bookie and broke people's kneecaps and shit. And he was the guy who was kicking somebody's head like a football outside the palms. And my older brother got offended because I said something not like he is Satan incarnate. I just said something negative about him. And then what do you, what do you mean? Pat was the first person that did this. He was on the scene when our brother killed himself, and I think it had something to do with that. And he was there for the family and all this stuff. And um, I was like, I didn't know any of that because I never even seen the guy. I was a wee 9 year old kid when my uh, older brother killed himself. So when my oldest brother, he was actually there. I've said this elsewhere, and I know this stuff's harsh, but better than me living it than you living it. But my older brother actually stuffed a rag in the hole where my second oldest brother put the bullet, and he died a couple of days later in the hospital um, when he was, I think, 17. So there's a generational thing. I think my older brother's, I think I'm 51, and my older brother's in his 60s. But I know he's got to be, yeah, he should be like 61, 62, or something like that. So, he was probably like 20 years old when that happened. I don't even know. Who the you don't talk about these things like you should, but you don't talk about these things like isn't this isn't an episode of like Family Matters. You don't talk. You just, hey, do you remember the day that you put the rag in the hole in our brother's head before he died? How old were you when that happened? But anyways, point being is like you got that difficult family history, so I don't really have anything against my younger sister. You know, I was like she said some things that she was just said some things that weren't too cool around the time where I was like, I'm not going to your son's wedding. I didn't say that to her, but I said that to the son. I was like, I'm sorry, but I can't go to your wedding. I can't tell you why I can't go to your wedding. And it's like, we worked that out and stuff. But she had some comments behind the scenes that I heard that she was chirping about me. Like, I don't see why you can't just suck it up, and she took it as a major insult or whatever. But anyways, that's what it is. I wrote an email this morning after watching the Browns just give a game away that said, I wrote it to the son, and I said I just want to wish your mom a happy birthday. If she doesn't want to talk to me, I understand. Um, that's okay, and if you don't want to deal with this, that's okay too. I said, I'd like to hear from her. Is all. I don't know her schedule as far as. So here's my number. I just If she's not interested in a happy birthday and a short conversation, that's fine too. Uh, and I said, no beef. I said, there's no beef between you, me, and her and me. It's her birthday today, so I haven't. I've seen her since I've lived in this building. I've lived in this building 9.5 or 10 years. I forget which. Um, so it could be as long as 8 years, but I think it's like 6 or 8 years since I've spoken to her. And you know, sometimes people just want to forget. You know. Speaking of which, I just watched the bootleg of the second part of the movie It, where forgetting their childhood was a big part of it. Part of the whole theme of the damn It movie and books is dealing with childhood trauma and remembering bad things and stuff. Sometimes people just don't want to remember that stuff. And in my case, I ain't gonna cast any blame. But I am drinking coffee this morning. Um, there's that's the second train that's come by while I've been talking. Um, so yeah, I go into the doctor, and then that's the 26th, and then October 2nd is when I go back and see the psychiatric nurse, the guy who prescribes the Valium, and you know, reset up the appointment for. I already filled out the form. He helped me fill out the form to apply for housing assistance. So, but I have to, you know, he neglected to assign me a case manager. He said, we got to get you a case manager. But I didn't see him for like 3 months, and he, of course, forgot all about it. But he's got me assigned a case manager now. And I'm just not, I just have to make the heart thing number one. I have to see how the appointments go, like with the doctor, and then going into the Coleman place, which is the doctor's right down the street. The Coleman place is in Canton. So, and it involves a lot of walking. And I'm going to like borrow the neighbor's wheelchair, I think, and then tell him that I got to be pushed in a wheelchair. Or I might get my mobility scooter by then. It's possible. So I might just say, like, I got to use a mobility scooter. I don't know if I want to do that because it will be like I'll be like a rookie on it. So I'll probably just go with the wheelchair. But when I make arrangements with Scenic View Transportation, I'll be like, I need to go in there on a wheelchair because of my heart thing. I can't get my heart rate up. And, like 185 pounds around. Now it's like more like 178. Uh, Not exactly all that great anyway, but now I park them. I just tell them, just go around the alley and park right here, and then the door is still a distance away. And I'll insist that the guy pushes me inside the building, and then I can wheel the rest of the way around. It's got to be, you know. Then when I'm in there, I can have people wheel me around. I don't have to worry about. I just have to worry about my nerves. I won't have to worry about um, overworking my heart or anything like that. But I have to slow everything down. Even though I want out of here, I'm pretty sure that the war vet is in Cleveland, like he said, and is in alcohol rehab. So he's probably gone for, I don't know how long that takes, but at least a week or 2 weeks. I won't have to deal with him or see him at all. So that's cool. I don't have nothing. Uh, I got stuff against the guy because the guy acts like a maniac and threatens to punch me in the face and all that shit, and makes me made me actually grab a hold of him and get violent with him, and encourages me to smoke, which that's my like I told him when I gave him the kiss off and threw the $20 out the window and said, don't knock on my door anymore. I said, I said, it's not your fault, man. It's my fault, you know. And I didn't refer to the smoking, but that's what I was referring to in my head. I said something more along the lines, instead of the George Costanza thing, I said something more along the lines of this has nothing to do with you. I just got to worry about me, and I got to take care of number one. And since you got to deal with your going to Cleveland and whatnot, you got to take care of number one too. And I shook his hand and said, I love you, man. You take care of yourself. And he just stood there and shook his head like confused, and he made a weak attempt like, this is too much money. I'm like, I don't care about the money. The money's not important. So don't care about the money. And with people that grow up poor and neglected, man, they can't get away from that. You know what I mean? They just can't get away from that idea of like everything is about money. They think money, money, money all the time. And like, I had an uncle that actually went through the actual Great Depression, super cheap, handed it down to his son. His son, um, my best friend, he will tell you up front, man, that he's cheap. But instead of like buying a new refrigerator and having it installed when he's making like God, he's got to make six figures easy. He like had an extra refrigerator. This guy's 65 years old. He had an extra refrigerator for the apartments that he rents out and a storage area. So he's trying by himself, to move this refrigerator because he's used to be at least a big, powerful guy. And he was like, man, I think I did something to my back, man. He's like, we talked about, I delicately talked about, like, you're getting older, you can't be doing that stuff no more, you know. And it's like, delicately just said, you're old, dude. Getting older, man. Um, but anyways, uh, as far as the war vet's concerned, he grew up like being neglected and being poor, so everything's about money. That's why he's like, you know, um, punching holes through tables over losing money, and doesn't replace things that he breaks. Like he's like a black hole. I think I told you the story where I gave him one of my cheapo straw white hats with the black band, and when he was shaving his head like Robert De Niro, and he said, "Man, I hate hats." And he threw the hat down on the table. He said, "Hats are for people who have something to hide." I'm like, "Well, you could give it back." And he just kind of like ignored the whole idea, and he put a bunch of stuff in the hat and carried it upstairs and kept the hat. It's like, like I said, I just loaned him a coffee cup. Not the Browns cup that I spent $20 for that he broke. But I just loaned him a coffee cup, and it took me like 2 weeks to get it back off him because he'd come out on the porch and be drinking coffee out of it, and I wouldn't ask him directly, like, "Man, give me back my fucking cup," because he's neither one of us are morning people, and so at one time he wasn't there, and the cup was outside. I was like, dude in the wheelchair was out there, Roy, and I was like, hand me that cup. I smuggled it back inside. It's the only way I could get that cup back. He wouldn't give it back. It was like, it's just a loaner, but I mean, it's like a black hole. Anything that goes in, it's not coming back out. Anything you give him, anything you loan him, whatever, it's not coming back. That 20 wasn't coming back, man. He was like, "Here, take this back. It's too much money," but he never picked it up. He never picked it up and held it out to me or anything like that. And I was pushing him away. He was like, "Man, that's overkill. That's too much money," but it stayed exactly where I threw it. But anyway, that's the consequence of growing up neglected, or growing up being poor, because your personality is formed very early and it just stays with you. And there's no reason at all that when my um, friend's refrigerator went bad, that he couldn't have called a company and said, I order a refrigerator out of the catalog and have him install it and save himself a bunch of hassle. It was just what I would do if I was in the six-figure category as far as income. And but no, not him. He still your personality is formed very early, so he's still thinking like, I don't want to waste money just because I have it. It can make my life easier. Why would I do that? And he used to fish with the shittiest fishing equipment. We spent we he's I've watched him lose fish from fishing with shitty equipment, like hooks that would break and stuff when we go fishing, and he'd be using fishing rods that were like 20, 30 years old, like the original ugly stick fishing rods, like they used to show on the commercials in the 70s and shit. And it's like nobody fishes with fiberglass anymore, dude. It's all about graphite or carbon, you know, because of sensitivity and strength and weight and everything. He's fishing with fiberglass poles and stuff like 15 years after fiberglass became outmoded just because just cheap. Great guy. I love that guy. I talked to him yesterday for a long time, and I said, man, I guess his mom, she kind of goes in and out, but she's in her 80s, and she knew it was me on the phone, and I couldn't think of nothing to say, but he was like, Mom says hello, and I said, well, say hello back. I couldn't think of something, memorable to say, like, say hello, beautiful, or something like that. Just something that would stick in her mind or whatever. But I said, man, you tell her I'm going to be moving into the neighborhood pretty soon because the place that I'm planning on moving into is a mile and a half away from my cop friend's house. So I can actually, if I have a working scooter, scoot back and forth in between there. And he's like, well, I can just give you rides, you know, if it's such a short distance. But that's something to try to keep me out of my depression and help me deal with the anxiety. And I don't care about material stuff. So, man, I just take things that are important to me on a personal level and just leave everything else. I'll take my microphone because that's an expensive piece of equipment, you know, medications, and I don't have any photos. My writing keep all my keepsakes, we'll just call them, and then a few of the essential things. Just leave everything, man. Just priority one, get the fuck out of this place. And I'm gonna tell you a story right now that I should have told you a long time ago, man. You gonna like this one. But so I got the keys off of the landlord. This is 2010, and this is my foster brother's with me. Right? He loves horror movies. And somebody actually, I don't know who the fuck was living here or why they didn't paint over this or whatever, but I ain't making this shit up. There was an actual pentagram, and it's done correctly upside down. And there's an upside down pentagram like this, scratched into the varnish in the wood on the door. Now, when I'm walking into the place, somehow because I don't work for a living, I got sensitive skin. I cut my finger, so I'm like, he was like, look at that. I was like, either me or him was like, look at that on the door, and I'm like, yeah, there's like somebody scratched a pentagram on the door of the place I'm going to be living on. And I looked at my thumb, and my thumb's dripping down the blood and stuff, and I'm like, man, you know what? This is what they would do if we were in a horror movie. And I like smeared my blood all over the pentagram, you know. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Cause he's a devotee of he loves horror movies, watches all of them." And he was like horrified that I did that, and I started laughing, and yeah, I kind of, the rest. I told that to his sister, and his sister really freaked out. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do that? And I was like, because it's funny. But in retrospect, this has been a cursed place, and uh, my life has turned to shit since I've moved in here. I got to check out. It's probably been so much a part of the door and just a part of the scenery that I don't know if it's still there. But now, after this video, I have to go out and look at the outside door and see if that pentagram is still there. I remember smearing my blood on it, like If we were in a horror movie, this is what I would do: smear my blood over the pentagram, and then I end up having the devil for a landlord and going through the nine circles of hell in this place. Betrayal being the ninth circle of hell, where Judas Iscariot's chilling, literally, because everybody's freezing there. It's like super super cold that far in the ninth circle of hell. Just a little Dante's Inferno trivia for you. But yeah, uh, I'm hoping I'm hoping my heart just chills out and like I was so close to getting out of here before any more bad things, really bad things happen. And then this happens. Then I get stuck in the hospital and put on all these stupid fucking drugs and have to go through things I've never been through before. And I've been through a lot of different medical things, believe me. And, that was a new one on me, the TEE thing. Where like, oh, you're going to put a camera somehow in my esophagus that's going to take pictures of the back of my heart to make sure I don't have blood clots. Okay. Party. Have a party, man. Party on. Rock on, dudes. What is it? Okay, this. Yeah, rock on, dude. Go ahead, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. But it wasn't cool if they lied to me that I was going to be asleep for it because, yeah, I want to have something jammed down my throat, man. I want to be roofied. It's going to go down like that, and I'm not in prison. Fuck that. Man, I don't even want to go there. But I already have. Uh, I, I did something just for me this morning after the Browns lost, which is I like doing things like that. Is this company's not reputable at all, but I bought something called a mooching rod because I don't get to go fishing anymore. But my brother and my cop friend they go fishing in Niagara for salmon, and my brother doesn't have a proper fishing pole. He just has a 7 foot kind of like slow bend type of it's a nice fishing rod. It's a nice pen graphite rod and stuff, but it's not set up for salmon and steelhead is what you're trying to catch there. So I got him a real salmon and steelhead rod. It's called a mooching rod. It's got this crazy ass long handle on it, like before you get to the reel part of it. But it ordinarily goes for $100, but because this is a disreputable company, you know, it's kind of funny. It's $50. It's half price. But before I move on here, but I asked him like, there's two lengths to this model. It's 9 foot or it's 10 foot, 6 inches long. And I asked him how long the rod was, and they put the rod is inches long. They're so sloppy that they don't even, you know, they didn't. Of course, it's inches long. Everybody's rod is inches long unless you got microphallus. I mean, come on. So they don't answer none of my questions about, I asked a bunch of questions about the product, and I said, yeah, fuck it, I'll take a flyer. They have something on eBay called Square Deal Trade, which means you pay $5 extra, you get an automatic 30-day return on your money and whatnot. So that's a present for me because I'm a hobbit, like to buy other people's shit. Like hobbits do reverse birthdays. I think I mentioned that before. Where if it's your birthday, you're the guy buying the presents, not getting the presents. But yeah, I bought that for him, and it's just going to show up there. He's going to be like, what the hell? And if it's a 10 foot 6 rod and he's using a 7 foot rod, it means you don't have to cast because you're fishing off a pier. And if you got like a big ass long rod, you can just you don't have to do all that casting all day. And you're drifting down in current. You just pull your bait out of the water and you're reaching 10 foot this way and then just letting it flow down the current and all that. So I gotta live vicariously through other fishermen. Uh, anyways, um, yeah, I don't. The tightness and stuff I feel in my chest is probably anxiety, like I said, because I had it in the hospital and I was hooked up to all the machines and they listened to me breathe when I complained about it. And they're like, your breathing's fine, you're getting full lungage or whatever the word would be. And, you know, everything sounds good in there. So I'm coming from up here. And, you know, anyhow, keep this relatively short for me. Okay, the frog in my throat just, he turned into one of them giant Goliath frogs there. Damn. But this is short for me, only a mere 40 minutes of your time. But if I go to my next apartment, I'm not a superstitious guy, but if I go to my next apartment and there's a pentagram scratched in the door, I think I will, Damas obitus olfactorius. I think I'll do some kind of, yeah, or like take a marker and make a cross over it or something, you know, after what happened here. 'Cause I thought, I thought it was just being funny. And all my fucking worst nightmares came true in this place. So if you have a pentagram on your door, don't anoint it with your own blood. That's what I'm gonna call this, man. I anointed a pentagram with my own blood. A lot of people will tune in and they'll be like, "What the fuck? This guy's out of his goddamn mind." And in many ways, I kind of am, but I have to be. You have to be out of your mind to deal with certain situations in life. It's just a coping mechanism. It's why all your comedians and a lot of your artistic people are fucking Fruit Loops in real life. And, because art is a way to deal with madness. They say from pain comes beauty when they talk about art. Well, there might not be nothing beautiful about this, but it amused the hell out of me making it. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.